podcast. Welcome to it. Well, folks, it's that kind of day. It's the sad
It's a
fight song.
spooky Sunday.
Sad fight song type of day. hmm Um, so it's homecoming, HoCo, as the youngins say it. I
If you
mean,
will.
yeah, whatever, man. Youngins they start saying stuff, and then you just gotta follow them, or else they call you lame. And God forbid you be lame. You know. Um, Homecoming. Look, I saw Baylor that had nobody at their homecoming, and they got a fancier stadium, and they're more important than us, according to them. So, like I think it's just one of those things. You're not winning. You're not winning to the level you want to win. It's hard to fill the stadium. It's also hard to fill a stadium at 11 a.m. No matter what the head coach yells at you. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
it's like when your parents scold you, like, don't do that thing, and you're like, you know what? Well, I'm gonna do that thing even harder.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like we record this pretty early, and it's sometimes tough to get up. Like, oh, you get to close your eyes. Imagine you had to get in the car and then go drink. Like, oh, gotta catch up. It's 11 a.m.
Yeah.
All right, so Tulane came into Denton, Texas, and they are now 4-0 against your North Texas Mean Green, having beat North Texas in 2013 with Kid Montana, and then last year with this is the third meeting. They're 3-0. What am I saying? Yeah, it's already adding another one. So they won twice in New Orleans. One at the Superdome, one at their new stadium, Tulane, which I learned was Tulane. They call themselves Tulane.
Tulane.
Where we got Tulane is pretty good this year. So, all right, Tulane.
Well, now they're 3-lane.
Yeah, 3 lane on us. They came to dead and they won. And the score is a one score game, right? We lost 45-37. In case you hadn't looked at the number, unfortunately, that was just lipstick on a pig at the end. We scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, and we took a long time to do it. We're like, let's do 20 play drive. It takes 5. I get it. We needed to score there, and so whatever. Um, but those last 13 points weren't really threatening
Yeah.
or anything.
Well, to be fair, that long drive in the fourth quarter, I don't know if we're jumping ahead, but it was helped out with lots of penalties.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would have ended pretty quickly too.
yeah. There was like two fourth down penalties, so that skewed our numbers, right? I like looking at the drive stats because I think it tells the whole game, right? Like a football game is really only like 13 to 15 possessions, right? So you think, oh, it's a long game, 60 minutes. Well, you only have the ball, really about 10 to 15 times, depending. And if you're going super quick, you can have it, whatever. So officially, we had the ball 13 times, and one of those is right at the end of the half, so you can take that one off. So we really only had the ball 12 times, and we scored 6 times on it. So 50%, but then two of those drives are in the fourth quarter, as we said. 19 plays, 80 yards, 7 minutes time of possession. That was a big data point that skews it all in our favor. I think in the part of the game that mattered, Tulane scored more often than we did when it was important. Like if you look at the quarter half accumulations, I said through the third quarter, I think it's good. Through the third quarter, they were up 45-24. They had 424 yards of offense. We had 381. Their time of possession, do I have that here? I don't have that time of possession through three quarters. But we turned the ball over twice. We lost two fumbles. They had that, what you call it, sack. We lost the game in about all the ways you could lose the game. Eric Morris mentioned this. We mentioned it in a preview. I went on another show and I said the same thing. It's like it was always going to be down to can we stop the run game. Football's very simple sometimes, and also all the time. Very simple. Can you stop the run? Because that changes everything, right? Like, and you think, well, no, they stopped our run. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like it's still about controlling the line of scrimmage, right? We knew that 2 lane, 3 lane wants to run the ball with Mackay Hughes,
Thank you.
and they did 20 times for 169 yards in the first half, 30 times overall for 195, career high. Give them a career high. But they set it up for a play action pass on third down to their redshirt freshman who went 10 and 13 for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns with the 1 interception, right? The one time they were like, all right, let me go out here and make a play through an interception. That's what we wanted. We wanted that dude to do some things. On the first drive, we had a 3 and out. That was exactly what we wanted. Get it, stop him. Okay, let's see, what we have here. Does an incompletion on the first play of the game. First pass attempt of the game, I should say. Let's see. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna say it because I'm doing it from memory. It was not a 3 and out. It was a 2 yard run, an 11 yard run, a 1 yard scramble, a 4 yard run, and then third down on 3rd and 5, deep pass incomplete intended for Mario Williams punt. That is what we want. That's an ideal drive for us, right? And I was bullish. And I know I'm vamping here. I apologize. I gotta say all this. Um, I was bullish because I thought Memphis had the same game plan. However, they had a better quarterback. But I think it looks like the Tulane run game is a little bit better organized than the Memphis run game. And that's something we saw this week because they were struggling with Charlotte and they needed a last minute touchdown pass from like 20 yards out. Did Memphis. So, there you go. Makes me feel bad about our team. Everything's awful. It's the worst day ever. Aldo, what were your impressions of this game? Thanks for joining the show, by the way.
Yeah, good morning. And when I think when we talked about the Memphis game prior to it, I was thinking that that was the one we needed to win. If we were trying to split this one, the Tulane game, the 3 lane game, and the Memphis game, Memphis was the one that was going to be the one that would be an easier win or a more attainable win. Um, and Memphis showed that we had an opportunity to snatch that. We didn't take that opportunity. Again, it was the poor run game, um, defense during that game, but this one, like we were seeing some glimmers of hope in the previous game and throughout the season, and seeing some improvements in whether that's through the players' reaction time or knowing where to be and the execution of the defensive plays. You saw where things were building up. But when it came to this past game, like we just got bullied over. Like it looked like a FCS squad versus an FBS squad. They just looked stronger than us. They got the push. We couldn't get much penetration into the backfield. When we were trying to hit the running back, we were getting bowled over. They looked more violent than we did. And when it came to one-on-one matchups, our defense versus their offense, we were losing those almost every time. So it was pretty disappointing to watch.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like that first touchdown pass, I think Colin Lewis, who's normally a third corner, right, and he was playing safety in this one, which I think tells you kind of some things. Like our safeties were Javen Anderson. Don't forget the broadcast. They were like, they're running this 3 high. They got to get out of this 3 high. Like we were not ever in our 3 high defense. We were in our 3-4 defense. And if it looks like there's 3 guys back or something, that's an adjustment or something that we do. Um, and like I said, I was calling it smart last week when we had our linebacker. We had Shane Witter jamming Rock Taylor, who's 6'3", 225. We're like, let's get our 200-pound dude, and instead of our 5'8", 175 guy, let's have him do some hand fighting at the line of scrimmage. That sounds better. So he would jam him at the line of scrimmage to give our cornerback a chance, and he's kind of sitting back, 8 yards back off the line of scrimmage. So if you look at the field, you're like, well, there's one safety, there's somebody else, and there's somebody else. Our alignment is still sort of a three high. We just have guys back, but it's not a three high safety thing. Anyway, all this is we're lined up in a 3-4 with 3-4 personnel, right? We had was it Brown, Wazlowski, Wooder, and who am I missing? Smith, right? Number 36 for linebacker. He had 10 tackles in this game. I don't know. I've seen. Let me just address these off the top of my head. I've seen we need to get rid of this 3 down lineman stuff. Okay, well, that's not necessarily going to work. Like we a 3 down lineman system and a 4-man system, like a 3-4 and a 4-2-5, a 3-3-5 and a 4-2-5, 4-3, whatever. They are almost the same. They're so similar that they might as well be the same. And in fact, a lot of teams play both. Like you're like, well, we primarily line up at a 3-4, and our jack linebacker is just slightly different than what you'd get as a pass rush end, right? You see that guy called a bandit, right? We call ours a bandit. In a 4-3 scheme, the pass rushing end would be called a bandit. In a 3-4 scheme, that guy's called a jack. And you might remember we had a jack. We had a 3-3-5 under Refit, except it was a little bit more of a 4-2-5 because our other dude there was our other linebacker was a jack linebacker. They're so similar, like your jacks.
18-wheeler.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things are like the same. Like, just to go over it again, you need a nose tackle. Pretty much every system has a nose tackle, and almost nobody runs a 2-gap 3-4 anymore. So it's all single gap stuff. Meaning you're not saying, okay, try to clog up this middle and then go one way, go another way. What you're doing is saying you're responsible for this gap on this play, right? It's not always the same gap, but like maybe you do stunts and shifts and stuff. But you're like, all right, I'm gonna line up and I'm gonna go this way. You want a space eater, like a big guy. We have ours in Brown. And then the next defensive tackle is a little bit lighter, maybe more of a pass rusher, but he still has run responsibilities. So maybe that one guy is 350. This one's like 325. Maybe it can be bigger, whatever. We basically have that in Valea, right? He's our other tackle. He would be a defensive tackle in another system, but we have them both on the field. Your other end is a little bit heavier. He's a sort of like your anchor in. Like I said, he's sort of the run stopping in. He'd be lined up to the tight end maybe in certain systems and certain schemes. We have that guy, right? We basically run that. Then finally, your other guys, your pass rushing in, and he's kind of coming off the end, primarily a pass rusher. But he might need to drop and do some pass responsibilities, get into space, and that's maybe the difference between a 4-3 and a 3-4, and why like Nick Saban switched from a 4-3 to 3-4 is because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can get that pass rushing end, and he's good enough that he can drop in coverage, and so you can be very multiple. Right now, I can bring linebackers everywhere, including this main guy. Right, we're always bringing 4 because this guy's always rushing. Sometimes he drops back because you think he's rushing, and now we confuse you and you throw an interception or something like that. Right, that's the idea anyway. So you look at Witter, he's not really a pass rushing guy, but there's not really a linebacker on our squad that could be a pass rushing guy. And so you're saying, all right, well, we'll just bring 4. We do have 4, right? Our nickel one where we bring like 3 defensive ends. I forget his name now, but number 46 is our like pass rushing nose tackle, even though he's a defensive end. He's like a freshman. And this brings me back to my other point, is that we just have so many underclassmen, right? Like that to me, that's really the difference. Like, hey, how do I get stronger? Well, you got to go lift weights, right? Okay, how long is it going to take me to be, really strong? About 3-4 years, right? In the college weight one. Okay, that means I'll be an upperclassman, right? And okay, so that's our plan. Um, and hey, I want to play secondary. I was like, okay, there's a lot of coverages to know. There's a lot of things to see, and you have to recognize them. How long is it going to take me? About 3-4 years. Okay, so then means you got to be upperclassman. Colin Lewis played safety for us. He's a redshirt freshman. Quentin Hammonds played safety for us today. He had 10 tackles. He's a freshman or sophomore, I forget what it is. You go down the list. Ethan Wazlowski, he had 9 tackles for us. He's a sophomore, true sophomore, right? Um, Evan Jackson, he had 2 tackles for us. He's a sophomore. Javen Anderson, he's a sophomore, redshirt freshman, I think. What I forget what it is. And on and so forth. Right? Xavier Bryce, he's a underclassman. Just all the way through underclassmen. And I think all the things that you see, and then everybody's yelling at Matt Capone for, like, Matt, how come you're not teaching him? He's like, well, I did teach him. He's a redshirt freshman, right? He's playing. All this is counterintuitively very valuable, right? Hey, it's good that we're getting knocked back by some of these teams because we're forging them in a fire. Is what was going on. Is that these particular guys, not all of them, you know, saw a lot of action last year. They're seeing a lot of action this year. It should pay dividends next year. Now, if it doesn't, then we have a talent issue. But I think these guys have been showing enough things here where you can see them put it together. I remember Brandon Gardner, EJ Agia looking pretty terrible. And then I was like, I don't know, they got to upgrade to this section. Then the next year, suddenly they were two of the best linebackers in the league. EJ Agia got like a bunch of sacks. It was like 13 sacks. It clicked. What happened? Time, time. We went on the sun again one more time.
I get that, but like Brandon Garner showed flashes, Agia showed flashes. I think the folks, linebackers are probably one of our bigger weaknesses. They get a lot of time in there. You hear him, you were listening off 10 tackles, 12 tackles, all that stuff, because there was a lot of penetration into the defensive backfield, and so they were asked to do a lot of things. I think a lot of times, so the defense looked like when a coach is an offensive coordinator is scheming up stuff on the board, and so the tackle's gonna go here and block the linebacker, and our guard is gonna come here and block the safety. Like we looked like we were the O's in those diagrams because
Mm-hmm.
Tulane was blocking all of that perfectly.
Yeah.
There was no setting of the edge because wasn't any edge. We were getting blown off on the left side, and it was just a open space right there. So
Well, I
I
would say, like I said, in their defense, that Colin Lewis is normally a cornerback, and we were asking him to play safety, and so then he was flying down, and their tight end was like, "You're not gonna do anything," and he just blasted him to
yeah,
to
exploded.
yeah, he got blasted to Alvord is what happened, and I mean, and
Back to
so
New Orleans.
yeah, and so like I don't know how much coaching up you could do. Like, hey, Colin, you gotta come. I, I, I don't know, man. Like, it's like
Well,
I remember being in football and say, the coach is like, all right, go knock him, and then the guy was a beast. He was 3, 4 inches taller than me and about 100 pounds bigger than me, and I gave him the full, kamehameha. You know what I mean? I gave him everything I had, and he took me and threw me to the side, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so
so
yeah, it's that scheme. I think it's just personnel is injuries at a safety spot. But I understand your point. Go ahead.
yeah, but who's the one asking him to do those things? Who's putting him in that situation? So it's possible that maybe we needed a different play, or maybe we called the wrong play and they called the exact right play against that. And then on the first touchdown, I think this thread got we went down was because of that first touchdown, and that's the corner that was being asked to play safety. He got caught flat-footed.
Yeah, he got
Um,
cooked up. Yeah, that was terrible.
yeah, I thought he was just like completely outrun, but he was sitting way back, and as the receiver's coming towards him, he just stood there until he saw the direction he was going, and then by that point it was too late. Turned his hips and started chasing after him, so he's wide open at that point.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm more upset at him for that because, like I said, he has to have better take. And I get he's sort of like a corner by trade, like a nickel corner. So last week he got beat by was it Blankensee when he did a little crossing route, short crossing route on it's like a 3rd and 12, and he got caught in traffic or whatever. But he looked a little late, like he was reacting a little bit late. And again, redshirt freshman, right? It's difficult to yell at a redshirt freshman and be like, "Oh, how come you don't have it all down? How come it's not internalized?" Sometimes you're just still processing, and I mean, whatever. Like, I think as a coach, yes, you yell at them. This is the standard. You need to be up here if you want to play. As I think players, fans, observers, I think we just give them a little grace in that. And it was bad technique. Yeah, that's a coaching point. It's coach tape right there. Like, don't. There's a lot of things you have to do. He was looking in the right spot. His technique was poor. He was leaning, trying to give him the corner route, but then the guy just say, oh, well, this is easy. I'll put a foot in the ground, turn it up, post route, touchdown, right? Touchdown, 3 lane. And he was like, oh no, you can. That's the part where, like, if you have bad technique, you better have ridiculous athleticism, right? Like, oh, I made a mistake. Let me make up for it with my superior leaping ability, right? If you don't
Yeah,
have
and
that,
and
you need great technique.
and that gets back to the point of like when Gio was first here, Brandon Garner was first here, when Ridge Tejada was first here. He was making those same kind of mistakes, but he's got elite speed, elite
Hmm.
quickness
Yeah.
that he was able to close the gap when the ball was in the air. He was able to identify where the ball was going his way. He would close on those 5 yards that he would, I mean, not 5 yards, 2 or 3 yards that he got beat on. He ate those yards up, and then a million pass breakups. That's why a lot of balls went his way because he was getting beat, but then he would close the gap real fast. And so that's the kind of personnel we need, right? That more elite type players that can come in, make mistakes day one, but make up for them with their athletic ability and their talent. And we don't have those kinds of guys um, at each level of the defense, and we need to bring those guys in.
Yeah, I think that is a good point, and that was gonna be my next point. So you stole it. So you're a thief. I'm gonna call the cops on you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, is that like there's a lot of good I see from these dudes. You can see why they're in there, but at least to me, I don't see um, ridiculous, game-changing, next-level athleticism there. And I mean, like I said, it's not talking mess or anything like that, but like I think that's the result of getting this level of player, and not the next level ones, right? Because like redshirt freshmen that have elite athleticism are going to Texas. They're going to Alabama, Georgia, and elsewhere, right? And these guys gonna be good, gonna be very good college football players, already producing college football players, but they just don't have that next level burst, right? And that's what was missing. Like, if you it doesn't matter what you didn't buy the good stuff, you didn't bring the good stuff, whatever. This recipe is missing next level athleticism on the defense, right? We don't have um, superior experience, right? Like, well, like everybody's seen it all, done it all, right? Like I said, Phil Hill. And I keep saying Phil Hill. Jaden Hill. Jeez, Jaden Hill. I'm like doing the procedure penalties. I'm like Landon Peterson out here. Um, Jaden Hill has been our best safety. He's been organizing the defense. He's been flying up, making tackles. He didn't play today, and I think you could see that. He didn't play a lot last week, and I think you could see that. He played against FAU, got the game-winning interception. That's one of the games he got hurt in. I think that has been a big problem here. And if you're wondering how valuable he is, I think you could see it. Is that he would have been in that spot where we saw Colin Lewis, right? Quinn Hammonds would have been over, and Lewis would have been the nickel corner as he usually is, right? Nickel safety, whatever you want to call him. And he's flying up, making tackles. He's making quick reads. He's whatever he sees the play and he attacks it. He has elite level awareness, right? It happens in your fifth, sixth year of college football. And these guys, everybody else playing right now, listed off have like 2 or 3 years, right? 2 years at most. And some of that's like, yeah, I was here, but I was like on the sideline, and I was trying to remember where my dorm is. And like, there's a lot that you don't really know yet. We're not that at that level, so we can't just rely on I know the play, right? Or I've seen this on film, or I saw this 2 years ago when this team did it. So we absolutely need elite reaction time. We don't have that, and what I mean, like, we
Yeah,
absolutely need. I've been in the weight room 5 years, and I can throw off this 300-pound lineman. Right now, we can't, and that's it. That to me
sure.
is it.
And we can only lean on the it's not an excuse. It's the fact that we brought in 77 new players
Yeah.
this year. If we are able to bring in more that could start right away, whether that's through a transfer or an elite freshman or whatever, we would have a really good. um, squad, guys that are backups that have seen a couple years of game time, if you can put in guys that can start over them, then you're talking about like a really, really solid defensive squad. But the thing is, like, do you want us? Are we squandering some of our current offensive explosiveness? Do we lose Chandler Morris? Do we lose some of those receivers that we won't get back? And then we're having to chase one or the other, right? This year we're chasing the defense. Maybe next year we're going to have to prop up the offense. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? We can't predict. But what we do know is that we've got to add more depth to our defense because we're losing one guy, and then we're allowing 10,000 yards of rushing
Yeah.
yards is not necessarily a position you want to be in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. You can see, um, like I was listening to Eric Morris's post game press conference, and he said what I said. Right? He agrees with me. That's good. I did the quick reaction. I said we're so close, but it's real far. Like we're so far away. Right? Last year we were excited because these two games, Tulane, Memphis, were one possession games, and we thought, hey, if we can get one stop. Right? We're one stop away if you think about it. Um, and now again, I mean, according to the score line, we are one possession away, right? 45-37 is right there. It's not right there. And, last week we were more right there. This week, this is, I guess, again, lipstick on a pig. But you could say, well, if it wasn't for Jet Duncan getting beat at left tackle and Chandler Morris getting hit blindside, sack fumble, and then Tulane immediately scoring a touchdown, we would have been right there, right? We go down and score, then it's a one possession game. So I could see that argument. And, there was the other turnover where we just gave him another one. We went down and kicked a field goal. And that's a problem. It's a little slow start again at home offensively. It was 7-3 when the offense or special teams, Chandler Morris drove the team to a field goal attempt, walked off the field. The next time he touched the ball, it was 21-3, right? He didn't do anything, right? There's only so much offense can do. That was special teams, right? We fumbled on a kickoff return, and defense. We didn't hold them to field goals. We let them score touchdowns, right? So bad. I would say yes, 77 new guys. They're not all on the defense. I mean, one was Chandler Morris, right? He came in. One was I think one of the quarterbacks came in. Um, there's the depth chart is filled all across the thing. I think defensively, Dawkins, he's been a plus for us. Shipley, he's been a plus for us. Um, the other guy, Brendan Charles, he's big and strong and looks the part, but he hasn't really dominated. I don't see him on the get a tackle for loss thing. Like Dawkins had 3 tackles and none for loss. Yeah, Shipley had a tackle for loss. He was injured, but that's also like I said. Ishim Young lost for the year. David Sproles didn't play, transferred, got 3 strikes were out. And then we also had who am I thinking of? B.J. Allen hasn't played really to an extent. We didn't see him this week. I didn't see him this week. If he was on the field, he didn't do anything of note. And that's part of the 77, and they were supposed to be big dudes in this whole thing, right? Like 3 safeties were supposed to be big players. Instead, to your point, right, we need to bring in guys that can make our current starters backups, right? Well, Javen Anderson was supposed to be a backup, and he's been starting. Evan Jackson too was supposed to be a backup. He's been starting. Even like Colin Lewis was not necessarily supposed to be in that spot. We're asking everybody to move up. We have our third corner, nickel corner, playing safety because we've lost, and Jaden Hill's also an addition. Jaden Hill's out, B.J. Allen's out, David Sproul's not playing, Ishim Young's not playing, and then the other guy that just listed one. So 5 guys of our presumably starting defense are big contributors not playing. And so I'm upset. Let me say, I'm upset that we allowed all these yards, that we got pushed around. But then, I don't want to just yell at the sun's going down, right? I'm like, where's the sun? What'd you do with the sun? Like, look, bud, this is how it works. I'm just trying to explain it, trying to understand. Is it reasonable to expect Colin Lewis to be a better safety than he is? I don't know. I think we're asking him to do a job that he's not trained for, built for, and the results were predictable. Is that okay? So who's asking our nickel corner to play safety? Circumstances are. I don't know. Maybe we should fire the strength and conditioning coach. That might be more reasonable. Like, how come these guys are not bulked up, man? These guys we're getting bench pressed out there. We need to do some bench pressing of their dudes. That could be a thing. We're losing a lot of dudes. We're having to get corners playing safety, and I said this before. Every exit and O's, you're like, let's run at this corner. Circle the corner. Let's run at him. He looks 5'8", right? Let's run away from the 300-pound guy. Let's run at the 5'8" dude. There was one where they ran. It was Hughes against Brian Nelson. What are you gonna do? And the running back had a head of steam running at him. He said, so Nelson's like, I'm gonna sit down, try to make a tackle. You're not gonna stop him from getting 3 inches at that point. It's over. It's over. You're like, oh, what's going on, Ski? I like that everybody played hard. I don't like that their hardest level of play resulted in easy runs sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and our guys were getting put on one-on-one matchups again that were immediately lost before they even had contact. Right. The one you mentioned, quarterback against the tight end. Then we had Ridge Tejada once going up against Hughes. He had again full head of steam, and Tejada didn't even touch him. Like it was just like whoop, he's gone. Uh, and we that's part of this getting out scheme there, where your defenders are getting isolated. They're getting blocked. Get out of the way. I mean, they can only do so much. That they might be in the right spot, but then they're left alone, going one-on-one with somebody that is 100 pounds heavier than they are.
Yeah, there's a couple things that like I don't know if it's scheme because I have also told people where to be, and then like my boss yells at me, "How come these people weren't where they're supposed to be?" And I'm like, "I told them where to be. I mean, I don't know, So, but yeah, you're like, all right, is it me? Did I not communicate well? Everybody can always improve, right? We can improve the coaching, we can improve the scheming, but Tulane is a very good run team, and we got to give them a little credit. Like they said, okay, we're gonna run the ball, and whatever weaknesses you have, we're gonna press them, right? Like if you have a shaky safety, we're gonna run at that safety. We're gonna make him win the game, right? Like whatever unlikely scenario it's gonna be, that's the one that you're gonna need to succeed. And like they ran that little stretch play a couple times. We had our DN Shipley like kind of dive in. He's supposed to cross the face there. It creates a gap. We need that linebacker to win, and it was 32. He couldn't win. Our safety was coming down, and Javen Anderson was ready. He was sitting in the hole, and he got cracked by the wide receiver. And then now the linebacker couldn't get over. He tripped over both, and then it was skipping down the sideline. So whose fault individually was that? It was everybody's. Like lineman didn't get penetration because if you get there, then that angle for the running back is a little bit more difficult. Our linebacker didn't fly up and fight through the trash as they teach him. Our safety wasn't keeping his eyes right and being ready for the crack. Usually, if you see the crack, somebody's supposed to replace there. Somebody didn't do that. There's all these things, all these breakdowns, right? And like I say, if you lose by half a second, everybody loses by half a second. Now we've lost by 1.5 seconds, right? If 3 people do it, right? It's everybody, right? It's enough blame. It's not, well, if we had one better linebacker. You know what they do? They'd scheme away from them, right? If you have, a good enough run game, you can scheme away from their best dudes. Like, consider that North Texas had 500 yards of offense, right? Like, Tulane came in, they're like, oh, yeah, we're good defense. We have senior corners experience all along the squad. And North Texas moved the ball pretty well. Scored 17 first half points. If it wasn't a blowout, they would have. I don't know.
Or
Like
17 first half points, but they were mostly in the second quarter. So
yeah, I mean yeah. That's the thing is that like it was circumstances, right? Like Tulane didn't have to stop North Texas offense to get a turnover. They stopped the kick returner, right? The freshman kick returner got a quick turnover, scores a touchdown. Like I say, it's easy if you don't have to go against your strength, right? So
yeah, well,
yeah,
I want to get to the offense, but I guess the last point I'll say about the defense is that I guess there's a lot to. I mean, blame is not the right word, but a lot
But
to.
do you want to fire Capone? Because you got to do it today or tomorrow. That's my thinking.
That's the tough part, right? If you're wanting to boost morale or figure this out, you got to fire somebody. Whether that's Capone running the defense and allowing all these yards, getting just bullied all over the place, is that going to change after he leaves? No, it's not. Um,
Who's the guy that brings coffee? It's probably that guy. You know.
or the guy that recruits all these guys, who's recruiting all these folks on the defensive side of the ball.
You're gonna get blocked again, man.
Double, triple blocked. I don't even know his name. Like his name's not even on his account, and so I don't even know what his name is. But yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's funny to be like, and I know you're kind of derailed your point, but it's funny to be like, this takes time. We're building something here. You got to be patient. Okay. Um, and then to say, all right, well, we're being patient. Everybody's like, well, we got to demand more right now. It's like they're saying be patient. I'm trying to be patient. And then you have other people like, oh, we got to demand. We don't score 7 touchdowns on one play. Then get him out of here. I don't know. It's like I said. My point of doing all this is to just not yell at the sun for going down. Right? You know.
So here I'll make a comparison. The level Chris Bosch's defense showed a level
You mean
of inept.
Kosh? Chris Bosh played in the
Sorry,
NBA. I was like, what? Chris. Do you remember the 2013 Miami Heat? Let me bring that up.
our
Yeah.
our 6'5" defensive coordinator. Um, Kosh. Dang it, Chris Kosh,
Yes.
the lesser of the two.
Yeah.
Showed a level of ineptitude and lack of awareness. Being, you know what I'm talking about, right? The defense was confused. They didn't know where to be. They were never in the right spot. They didn't know the plays. They were yelling at each other on the field. I do not see that level of ineptitude
Agreed.
with with this defense.
Agreed.
What I do see is guys getting bullied on the field, not having the ability to win at the point of contact, and that is a positive sign, right? Well, we are allowing historic levels of record games for our opponents.
Yeah, Hughes had a career high 195, and last week Mario Anderson had career high 4 touchdowns.
So it's hard to argue against that, right? Why don't you want to fire this guy that's allowing 200 yards per player on the field? And if we didn't have Chandler Morris, if we had a different quarterback that was not as capable as him, the scores would be 45-20, 50-15, or whatever, where this problem would be more glaring, and maybe we would be having a different conversation. So there's all these factors to say that I don't know. I don't know.
Well, for me, I think those, like this is why you have to define objectives early, define your criteria early. So that way you're not letting emotion, right? Because human emotion is great. You're like, oh, I'll fire everybody. It's like a king just declaring, like, I don't like the color purple. Anybody wearing purple's dead. Like, you're like, what is going on? And so then you create a culture of fear. Just like no one is able to do their jobs, right? Because they're just scared that the whims will cut their heads off. So I think that Matt Capone, like if you ask him, like, hey, what are we? I don't know the conversations they're having, right? I don't know what he says. This is what kind of defense I want. This is the kind of things I want. But I think you can point to some good, right? Like to your point, I think those Koch defenses are terrible, right? Guys are not playing hard for him, and that was because he was a terrible coach. That's what I hear. Like he would be like, "Oh, you're taking food out my family's plate." Like his motivational style didn't work. It's the short version. And so, is Matt Capone getting his players to play hard? I think so. I don't see anybody not playing hard. I just see them like losing, which is a different thing, right? So then you're like, are you recruiting? Are you teaching the right thing? Like, is it technique that we're losing? I don't think so, and that's what I'm saying again. Thinking about this is like we have a lot of underclassmen out there that are playing big minutes, and I mean, when you talk to Eric Morris and say, all right, well, who are you scheming against? Like, oh yeah, they're freshman corner. Yeah, let's see, maybe they're freshman linebacker. Let's show him some things, see if he knows anything, right? What do you do to a freshman quarterback? You show him some things that he may not have seen, right? Make him think, make him process, do all make him show you that he's worthy of playing out there. And I think, look, I think that there's no salve, there's no balm, there's no medicine like a good quarterback, right? Like yeah, it's just, but everybody knows that. On defense, there's no one position you can say, well, we got a five. We could get Travis Hunter out here and have him play cornerback for us, and they would still run for big yards because let's run away from Travis Hunter. We don't have to throw at him, right? Okay, well, we can get game-changing defensive linemen in there, one dude. You can still run with one dude, right? You can read him. You can have him move one way. You double team him. Whatever. You can make some things happen. It's still possible. There's no game-changing bomb for the defense. You need dudes, plural. And
Yes. Well,
yeah,
where I will interrupt you when you got Hill on the field,
yeah,
um, for example, those 3rd and 12s, those 3rd and 16s, they may not become a first down because he's flying in there to stop the guy after he
yeah,
breaks that first tackle.
hmm,
So he's flying in to
yeah.
clean up, and it becomes a 4th and 5 or whatever.
But yeah. Like it's like I said, you take a percentage of the plays off because Phil Hill also played against Texas Tech, right? And he didn't save
Right.
everything there.
Sure, but against us, against not conference, you say,
The
a,
American Athletic. Yeah.
AAC competition. Um, that's maybe 2 series, maybe 3. Right? We're not talking about every single series. Maybe that's 2 series in the game that goes from being 14 points in favor of 3 lane to being 0 points, or maybe 3 points in favor of 3 lane. So that's where you have needed that one guy to make that difference, and that can change the game. We need one guy at each level. We got Ridge. Starling is showing pretty good stuff. Is he is he still out there?
Yeah, he got
Um,
he got beat over the top on a play action. Like there's a point where Tulane were just like, okay. I mean, it's funny because like it's like video game stuff because it's simple football, right? Like I did this. I played as like was it Texas or something like that, and I was just running, and I was running against some guy, and I was like, you know what? It's play action time, and I did a play action. The guy was wide open, right? It's just football. I remember doing that same thing in like Madden, 95 or something like that. Like it's just how it works.
yeah, it can't be 100%, and most of the time you don't want to hear about your quarterbacks, right? They're
Yeah,
not targeting the guys that are
yeah.
being covered by Ridge and Taylor, or if you think about previous players, shoot, now I'm blanking on Nate,
Nate
uh,
Brooks, yeah.
Brooks,
Keemon
those
Hall,
guys.
yeah.
Right, you don't hear about them because they're not getting targeted, and who is getting targeted is like Wislowski and all these other guys that are getting beat.
Well,
The front seven is what I'm
I'm
talking
saying
about.
you make a good point. Is that like last week, Blankency scored on Cam McFarland, right? Our backup safety. This week they threw it deep on Starling, Darian Star, it's not Darian Star. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. Starling, Darian Starling is a former UTSA player.
Taylor,
Starling, I can't remember his first name now. But he's also was it redshirt freshman corner or sophomore corner? I forget. Underclassman corner, I'll say. I totally understand your point. Is that like, yeah, you want game changing players at all levels. I think we at safety we got a little unlucky, and we're now down to guys where that we thought could contribute, but in spots, and not say, all right, Quentin Hammonds, let's see you out here for 50 plays, 50, 60 snaps. All right, let's see you make a lot of these things. And so I think was it Miles made this point on Twitter. He's like, I'm done with those excuses. If you're fresh at this point in the year, you're not, yes and no, right? I mean, yeah, you still you gotten better. Like from day one, you're not as much of a freshman or a sophomore or underclassman as you are on October 27th. Like you've improved. You know what I'm saying? That's all true. However, still relative to everybody else, you've not played as much football, right? Because even the senior, rising senior on day one has played more football now. Right? On October 27th, he's played more football and he's gotten even more better, right? So it all moves together. Maybe it doesn't move at the same pace. Maybe you progress better. Whatever. I think it's all a wash when you do the math on all of that. And it's still like, hey, Quentin Hammonds is a better football player than he was at the start of the season, but he's still not as good as we need him to be. And that's not a knock on him, right? We're asking him to do a little bit more when, otherwise we wouldn't. Ideally, we wouldn't. Do
Yeah,
you, Aldo, do you know any game changing defensive linemen, and do they have eligibility, and do they want to go to the University of North Texas on scholarship?
I think I have eligibility. Um,
Can you displace a 300-pound offensive lineman? Because that'd be pretty great.
I'm shifty. I'm shifty.
Well, so again, I want to point this out. Terrell Dawkins made a play on 4th and 1, right? 4th and 1, Tulane was going to run for it. He split the line. He got into the backfield. He hit Micah Hughes, and then North Texas won the ball back. That's what we want. Terrell Dawkins is a transfer defensive lineman that you got in here. I forget what his eligibility is. You might be. He's an upperclassman, but I don't know how many years he has left. When we're evaluating the recruiting for Capone or whomever else, right, it's going to be, can we improve that defensive line? It takes time, but I think we can speed it up. We're losing Brown. We're going to lose Brown. We need more guys like him. We need a nose, game-changing nose. We need a defensive tackle, and we need some disruptive ends, right? Shipley's like a pass rushing end type, but he's playing like the other end there, what they call it, Leo, whatever. Um, we need more guys like that. We like Shipley's been good. He got hurt, and then the drop off was like, all right, well, I don't know. Valea, he's been hit or miss. I think sometimes he's gotten thrown off to the side. Was it that dude Dennis from Memphis? He played really well against us, right? We need some guys like that, and like that dude Dennis is like 5'10" or something like that, like 300 pounds or five. He's a little bit shorter. It was kind of weird, but my point is that we need to get improve. We need to improve. Maybe go knock on SFA's door, right, and say, hey man, you guys are killing us. Do you want to play football in North Texas?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got sidetracked with the final point of the final point that I wanted to make, right? Where this is a better defense than on visually, not on paper. It looks better than the Kosh defense. Everybody's where they're supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
but we're losing individual matchups.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Capone is a defensive back guy. He brought in a ton of defensive backs, but they're mostly out for whatever reason, hurt or kicked out of school or looking to transfer because they made bad decisions. It's a lot of bad luck. I will say that we are because of our offense, our one-dimensional offense, we are a bowling team, but not a championship contending team. And I think this was our window of opportunity that due to all the things we just said, we are not going to have that next level opportunity. Maybe until next year or the year after.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. It's always going to hurt when you realize that, right? It always hurts when you realize you're not going to play center field for the New York Yankees, right? You're like, does anybody want to join the softball league? Yeah, it's just like it hurts for a little bit, then you got to realize, you can still enjoy some things, still have a good time. You might not be on Fox, play, like you might not sign any autographs. You might sign a release fee, a release form. That's it. A lot of people, you realize that you're like, oh, turns out I'm not gonna be famous. So yeah, yeah. This that was a goal, right? Eric Moore said, like, I mean, we got to make a bowl. That was like the first one. They've been right there. We said it a couple weeks ago. Memphis, Tulane, and then Army. Like Army is like the bonus one. Those are the games that we're going to learn about this team. I think, what did we learn? We learned that we absolutely need a better run defense, right? Because they only get better. Memphis, Tulane, they're good for the AAC. There are better run squads, right? I don't want to play Genty in a bowl game. They're just going to run for 750 yards. I don't, I don't want to play ridiculously good run teams. Like Texas Tech's not that good of a run team, and they destroyed us. They ran all over us. Um, so it has to get better, right? Those are off-season things. Like, is it a better strength and conditioning coach? Is it a better defensive coordinator? Is it a better defensive line coach? I don't know. All those decisions don't need to be made by us, and they don't need to be made now. I don't think firing Capone right now is the smartest move. I think his contract ends or something. I don't know what. You're gonna kind of figure out something. Um, but I will say that you're risking losing a guy for whom the players are playing hard for, right? For whom the players are playing hard. But I think you made that point. That was a great point. I think that's something to keep an eye on. Do they play hard for him? Yes. Is that important? Yes, absolutely. Uh, could we supplement his weaknesses, whatever they may be, with an additional hire, changing something else out? Like, hey, we lose a some other coach, and we say, all right, let's get this guy who's great at some of the other things that Capone's not great at right now, right? Maybe it's game planning. Maybe it's this or that. It's organizing the run defense. I don't know what something you can figure it out. Anyway, I think those are going to be in the offseason. We play a lot weaker teams. Like, you remember how we held Tulsa down? Tulsa scored 46 points against UTSA yesterday. They came back from 28 down. Um, we have UTSA on the schedule. We have ECU and Temple, very weaker teams, right? We did a lot of good against Tulsa. Like, if you like, hey, do we have any more Tulsas on the schedule? Yes, we got a UTSA, we got an ECU, and we got a Temple, and we got to go beat them up a little bit. At least that's the plan. Right? They could always improve, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the plan. There's small margin for error against Tulane. Small margin for error against Memphis. Army is a unique bird. You're basically playing, you're going into the past and playing that kind of thing. It's so weird. But yeah, that's what you got. You got an Army in 2 weeks. You got to rest up, get healthy. Hopefully, Jaden Hill is healed up because he's an important guy.
Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah. I was just saying, that's it. So you have Army, and then you got to figure out what's going on, right? The AAC was never really that much of a realistic goal. Like, it's like if we beat Tulane and Memphis, we must be really good, right? And then you kind of figure out where you are. But I think this season has gone according to our preseason projections. I said about the offense that we're going to be really good because we always are really good. I just don't know what that looks like. Is Chandler Morris going to be the guy, whatever? But I think I can see it happening because he's, Eric. I trust in Eric Morris. He always finds a quarterback. He always has a good offense. And in year two, they're always better. You can go back and listen. I said all this. The question is the defense. Can they be 10% better, 15% better? And I think in spots they have, definitely against weaker teams. That's been a big thing. Last year we made bad teams look better. This year we've made bad teams stay the same, and we've lost against good teams. That's an improvement, even though it's one that we're like, well, you can't even see it, right? You can't see it from the from the seats. It doesn't look good when the guy's running around in. You're like, I hate this team, fire everybody. I totally understand that, but that's why we do the podcast on Sundays.
That Chandler Morris is so good that we've been in a lot of games that we normally would not be losing with this defense, right? Already said that. There's only so much you can do, and we're down to our fifth running back.
Yeah.
Our former wide receiver that we converted to running back because we ran out of running backs, and now we're down to two, I believe, the two freshmen, and they look and play like freshmen out there. I will say that pass protection has been pretty decent from these freshman running backs. Most of the time, there's a few that they missed out on, but where Morris was having to scramble in the backfield doing his Tony Romo moves out there.
Yeah, he has a little spin, a reverse spin, and he gets all the time.
Yeah, fake. One day it's not going to work, but it's he needs to throw the ball away. I'm like, throw the ball away. You went from 1st and 10 to a 2nd and 16 because you ran out of bounds. Anyway, getting sidetracked. It's turned us into a one-dimensional team where we cannot rely on our run game. Shane Porter was getting a few good runs in there, but that's like 2 or 3 shifty, nifty runs, right? That
Then
looked
then his
good,
shoulder
but
would pop off again.
right. But the rest of the time it wasn't looking good. We were getting beat at the line of scrimmage. We couldn't get it upfield pretty very well. We couldn't run people over like their guy was. And anyway, it's turned us into a one-dimensional team. Okay, that's our identity. We're a passing team. But we can't be perfect on that side all the time. Even though Chandler Morris has passed for more than 300 yards, 7 out of 8 games, and then out of 4 games over 400 yards.
Yeah,
It has been an incredible run.
yeah, he's passed Mason Fine for like career 400-yard passes. This is the thing, right? Is that like there's like Austin Ani was doing that, or like, hey, Austin Ani's like sneakily climbing up the passing ladder, right? He had a little string of big games throwing the ball. Um, Chandler Morris is like making a case that he's better than Mason Fine. I think he's better than Mason Fine in just pure talent, but I think he's also on field production. He's not going to get the same number of years as Fine had here. Um, However, like in terms of a single season, this is the best passing season. I think he's a few touchdowns away from surpassing Mason Fine's single season record. He's already passed the number 400 yard career 400-yard games, and he's doing that in one season. He has a streak of 300 plus yards passing. Like he's very good, and it's not, again, if you consider all the factors there, like I think Mason Fine had a better offensive line. At least they were not as injured, and he had a better stable of wide receivers there for a little bit. When he had Rico Bussey, and he had Jalen Guyton, and then Mike Lawrence. Right, that's the top three. Uh, this is not, of course, a knock on DT Sheffield, but if you look at like Damon Ward, he's been injured for most of the season, and then he got injured in this game after scoring a touchdown. If you look at DT Sheffield, he's sort of making his way. Landon Sides has kind of been in and out of the lineup. White Young's a freshman, right? And then you're like, who else is on this? Blair Conrad is a little hit or miss. Yeah, he makes a catch and he drops one, kind of runs a weird route sometimes, and he's a senior wide receiver. And then he's sort of the same as Nick Rempert, where you're like, well, there was good. Like I said, they're kind of hit or miss. But outside of DT Sheffield, you're not like, okay, this guy's dangerous. He's an easy 200-yard game for you. You just throw the ball to him. DT Sheffield's that guy. But our offensive line is like I think Jed Duncan's played every position along the line this season, right? Center, guard, tackle, you know, and both sides of it too. Given all of that, like you can see that yes, the quarterback is making us look a lot better. Quarterback and DT Chef making us look a lot better than we probably deserve to be, right? Considering the offensive line is a work in progress. The defensive line hasn't been great. Like you said, the safeties, we're like on our fifth safety and we're on our fifth running back, right? It's just, and then our wide receiver room is patchwork too. There's a lot of holes to fill, and so that's why I don't like solely focusing on like, oh, the defense is losing all this game, but for them we'd be perfect. Like there's a lot of things that are being held together with string and duct tape and a good knot. That's what we got. It's like, just tighten in there. Okay, that should hold. Just don't just don't go too fast. That's kind of our thing.
Yeah, the expectation was elevated pretty quickly with the offense that he's been able to. Eric Morris has been able to create last year with Chandler Rogers, this year with Chandler Morris. In turning guys into superstars, right? Or at least have a lot big expectations on what they can do. Like Landon Sides has fallen off the map, not because he's not good, but because Chandler Morris is able to spread it out to 12 different guys on the field,
Hmm.
and so Sides isn't asked to do as much as he was being asked to do last year, which is good. This is a good thing. Um, but
Which is why I'm not super worried about next year, right? Let's say Chandler Morris says, I don't know, I had good times, guys, but I'm gonna go somewhere else now. Whatever. Maybe he plays again, right? But worst case scenario, he leaves. And I think that's what a lot of people are like. That's why we needed, that's why we need to fire Capone because he didn't do a great job and he just squandered. I think your job is always to recruit a quarterback, right? Like you need to have a good one. And we heard a lot of doom and gloom about losing Chandler Rogers. You got Chandler Morris in here. Now you're like, okay, well now who's gonna get? Well, that's always the job, right? And I think I've heard good things about Maker, right? We don't know if he's gonna be the guy, but I believe that Eric Morris has the ability to find another quarterback that can play in his offense. Like I'm not
Yeah,
super worried about that.
we got a pretty awesome commitment. We're hoping to keep him. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Yeah, he's like a 3-star guy. Yeah, yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, it's like so that part is I'm not super worried about that. The parts I don't want to say I'm worried, but I think the parts that I'm not as confident in are the parts that Eric Morris hasn't shown uh, in ability to to find talent. It's like I don't know that he's ever had a great defense, right? I don't know that like I never liked the this is the kind of defense I don't like to play against. Like okay, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily complement your offense, right? And I think he's sort of coming around to this, but like because he said Tulane has an identity. They do a great job handing an identity, and they do the thing. And he's saying that stuff. Summerall does a great job because he's a linebacker. He played linebacker at Kentucky or something like that, and he knows what he wants to see. Right? We're gonna run the ball. We're gonna control the clock. We're gonna play great defense, and they do that. Right? At Troy, they did that. They were able to be a little explosive, but they ran the ball. They controlled the clock. They played great defense. Played great defense. 2 years at Troy, won 2 Sun Belt titles. They shut down some good offenses. They're very good, right? Summerall's very good, and I think he's going to make Tulane a problem as long as he's here. He's someone to worry about. That they're always going to run the ball. They're going to play great defense, and they're going to be hard to score against, right? That's it. So yeah, we have to be able to beat them. So we have to build a team that can beat them because they're number one. So we need to be able to stop the run and score against a very good defense, right? So that's it. You build the team for the teams that you have to beat. We need to be able to beat a Memphis. What is Memphis going to be? Um, I think they're going to be built on the run, and then they're always going to have talent. Like Memphis is always going to be able to get talent in there. That's what you need to do, right? Those are the two things. UTSA, I don't know what they're going to be anymore, but Taylor's always be able to get some talent in there. But he likes to run the ball a little bit.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of it, right? So then those are the three teams. Then you got Army, Navy. So you need smart players that can stop the run. That's kind of the other part. That to me is the thing. Um, and I think that's
I
how you
mean,
win. Yeah,
we've got the identity. It's a passing team. We're passing what 60 plus times a game, 400 plus yards passing
yeah,
every time, 2 to 3 passing touchdowns a game. We have the identity there, but it's being overshadowed by the other side of the ball,
yeah.
and which is a shame.
And I think that is that Mike Leach won the most when he had I can't remember that guy's name, but he won with Ruffin McNeil, right? I think that was the season they ended up being ranked number one. Great defensive coach. Ended up being the head coach at ECU, and then you got like Lincoln Riley over there as the offensive coordinator. Um, and then the other dude, I can't remember his name. It started with like a C or something like that. But like he was the dude at Washington State, and then he ended up going to Oklahoma, I believe it was, and I forget where he is now. But those are the two guys that he won the most with. Is like having a defense that was tough, right? Like could generate a pass rush, get some turnovers. Like for me, I think if you have an air raid offense, you need a defense that can just generate turnovers. And that's why I liked the uh, Refit defense, where he's like, we're just gonna bring pressure. We're
The
always bringing
attack.
pressure, yeah, and it's high risk, high reward, though, right? Like because when it comes off and you get a 13-yard, sack, then it's like, all right, this drive is killed. We got the ball back. High-powered offense gets to go score again, right? We keep it up tempo now. Like you're just you're put behind the game. Now we get to pin our ears back and come attack you. I think that's sort of what we're supposed to be, like a drop aid, kind of contain you, make you dink and dunk, and take time. But teams are just running the ball against us, and they are flipping it, right? They are controlling the ball, and now we're like, okay, we need our offense to score, and it's tough because we're not in like an efficient offense. We can be, but we're not like, all right, let's go 19 plays, 80 yards. That's the first time we've done that. Right? It's not really something we can do. We're not. Let's do that, and then now you only have a short time to score, and our good defense is going to make you bend but not break. whatever. They have to be complementary. Is being my whole point here.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes you put the defense in a bad spot because you go 3 and out in 10 seconds, or you score a touchdown in 10 seconds, and so the defense is back out on the field.
Yeah, and so if you understand that's what you want, then you need to build your defense in a certain kind of way. And I don't know. Like the run defense needs to be better. How do you do that? I don't know. How do you do that and score in 10 seconds? I don't know. That's been a very tough question. I think part of the answer is you get 5-star defensive linemen. It's
There, you
basically
solved it. You solved the problem.
yeah. Just get 6 5-star defensive linemen just right there. And then have them just wreck shop, and then yeah, it's real simple that way. I
the
solved it.
the six the 6'5" defense.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of what it is. Like, it's very hard to do anything. You're like, well, we can't run the ball because this guy keeps eating our lunch, and then every time we try to throw it, this guy, folds me up and like origami and throws me across the field. Uh, the cornerback's like, man, I'm the greatest cornerback ever. I just watched that
Of
guy
all time.
go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Mean Green Nation podcast. Thanks for listening. We're sorry we lost. It's Aldo's fault. After
Yeah,
I tell
I forgot to put the flag up. I'm sorry.
him. That's what it is. Next week is a bye. I think we're going to do another show. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Well, maybe I was thinking about inviting some of the other podcast peoples on or something, but it's hard to get schedules together. So we'll see what's up. I'm thinking about something special. I'm gonna call a play, whether Aldo executes it or not. That's a different matter.
My shoulder hurts.
Shoulder hurt, guys. All right, so yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for listening. Go Mean Green.
Mean Green.